highly interactive leadership training with our professional executive coach, Laura Dewey. We're so excited to have you, Laura. Thank you for being with us today. So we also want to ask that you have a pen and paper with you, as you will probably want to take notes and you'll probably want to participate in today's exercises. And then of course, just make sure you have an appropriate background on your screen. So again, we are recording this and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Laura.
Yay. Thank you so much, Molly. It's wonderful to be here with you today, participating in the Career Path series. And our topic today is the secret to clear-headed leadership. So let's get started. I'd love to start by getting your hands on the keyboard and participating in the chat if you are able to. If you're driving, don't do this. And just in the chat, 2 words to describe you right now in this moment. 2 words to describe you right now in this moment. I am warm and present. We have an excited, amazing and awesome. Whoa, Ivan. Yes. Amazing and awesome. Keep going. 2 words to describe you today. The reason I'm asking this is who knows where you were right before you came to this call? And it's a way to check in with yourself and pull your mind, body, and spirit into our time together. So just take a moment to check in instead of just jumping from one to the next. Old and sleepy. I love it, Michael. Welcome. Ready and tired. It's fun that you can be ready and tired at the same time. I love that. All right. My name is Laura Dewey, as Molly told you. And yes, I'm an executive coach, a leadership coach in practice over 10 years based in Tustin, California. And I usually work with either business owners or in organizations from the director level to the CEO level. And one of the organizations I've worked with is Cal State Fullerton. And I taught this very content, I think 3 years in a row with their adult MBA program. So I'm tickled to bring it here to you. And let's start right in. And now the title's Clear-Headed Leadership, the secret to clear-headed leadership. But the truth is, this is just for clear-headed thinking. It can be, and so how it fits into the Career Path series is when you're thinking clearly, you'll be much more able to get the job that you want. You'll be much more able to lead others and really use what I teach today in many, many areas of your life, which we'll go over in just a moment. So my question to you is, why clear-headed leadership? What's in it for you and what's in it for those you lead if you're clear-headed? Just jot something in the chat. The first thought that comes to your mind, what benefit is there to clear-headed leadership? Pop those in the chat. Easy communication, excellent. Clarity, heightened focus, serve well, yes. Better decision-making, go Molly, yes. While those are coming in, oh, thinking before speaking, be still my heart. All right, here are just a few things. You will be a leader that can be counted on. You'll be that calm in the storm. Did you ever have a leader where you don't know who's showing up that day? It's the same pace, same face, the same person, but you don't know who's showing up. Are they going to be kind of depressed today? Are they going to be overexcited? What's going on? So they can count on you. You can be calm. You'll be able to see objectively and see that big picture. Great decision making, which somebody said. Approachable and predictable. Every employee, every person wants a leader who is approachable and who they know who they're seeing that day. And of course, more confident and assured. That said, what I teach today is going to participate in many, or contribute to many other things in your life. This one secret to clear-headed leadership will not only improve your job performance and elevate your leadership, it will deepen your relationships. You'll be better able to cope with frustrations, understand your unwanted emotions, hello, and all of this creating much more peace of mind. Who doesn't want that? In addition, better focus. I know someone said that in the chat. When all the clutter is cleared out, you have more energy. You can be more creative. You can think clearly. All of this reduces your stress. And as many of you know, stress is tied to health issues. So as you reduce stress, you can have better health as well. And ultimately more graceful work and home life, which I think everyone is looking for, and many more things. So I guess what's left to say is, what is this secret? What is this one secret that can do all that? and it's emotional self-mastery. If you can master your emotions, your inner world, your outer world gets a whole lot better. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. You will leave here with increased self-awareness. Self-awareness is key to leaders. I'm going to share the psychology and physiology of emotions. This is stuff no one taught me in school until way late in my life. I don't know about you, but what are emotions? Where do they come from? And what on earth do I do with them? We'll talk about healthy expression of emotions. And don't worry, this isn't going to be all airy fairy. This is like, we're not going to sit and cry. We're just going to learn about these things that are part of our life and leadership every day. And I'm going to teach you one specific skill that has the potential to really, and I'm not being dramatic here, change your life. I've worked on it with countless clients, countless classes, and everybody says this is a game changer. Why didn't anybody teach me this? You'll have the opportunity to practice this skill. That's why, Molly asked me to come do a talk, and I said I could do a talk, but I'd much rather do a training, because a talk is one way and it can be motivational and you may learn something, but then you kind of forget about it. A training is different, especially mine. I want to have an experiential element to anything I do. So I want you to leave with the skill in here rather than in here or on some, white binder you throw on a shelf. So practice. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions, to share out loud, and then put your learning to work. You'll leave here knowing how to do that. I ask you to be present. I know how tempting it is to share your attention with other things. Your email may be open. I invite you to close it. It's Friday afternoon. They can live another hour and a half. Be here now. Every time you share your attention, you lose it wherever you're not sharing it. Please ask questions. Don't be shy. Pop those in the chat. And Molly, you have full permission to interrupt me if I miss anything in the chat. You can also unmute and just ask. I'm not a super formal teacher. If you speak aloud, I want you to know that you're in charge of what you say. I'm not asking you to go anywhere you're not comfortable going, any deeper than you're comfortable going. And there may be a place where I might call on you, and just know if I call on you, you can say, I pass. If you A, don't want to answer, or B, have nothing to say, just say, I pass, no judgment, I'll move on to the next person. And I ask that you keep anything you do hear from anyone in here in strict confidentiality. You may be talking to someone who doesn't know that person. It doesn't matter. Just by breaking this bubble, it's just doesn't feel quite right. You will need a pen and paper, and please be comfortable. We're here for 90 minutes and we're not taking a break. All right. Well, let's start with some self-awareness. And I ask you to look at the screen. I know most of you can see it, some of you can't. And just take a quick inventory of things that you're currently experiencing at work or home. You can jot those down, and I invite you to jot one down in the chat that speaks to you. What are you experiencing? Fatigue, balancing home and work, difficult focusing. Yeah. Insomnia. Fatigue. Stress and anxiety. Doesn't it feel good to see these things popping up from others? You're not alone. Everybody's got stuff. Lord knows I got stuff. Worrying. I used to be a chronic worrier. Oh my goodness. I was expert. Insomnia, fatigue, and home and work balance. Great job. So many of these are emotionally based, and they can be relieved through emotional self-mastery. So I want you to take a moment to jot down or think of something that recently disturbed your peace, and keep it as simple and tight as you can. So someone cut me off in traffic.
So silly.
My sister called with X news. Something that anyone looking at the situation would be able to observe. So keep it as sterile as possible. What recently disturbed your peace? Take a moment to jot that down. We will be using it later, so I encourage you to write it down. Weeds in my backyard. Good. Jot it down, keep it in your mind, but we will be using it again. So I do encourage you to write it down if you have access to pen and paper. What recently disturbed your peace? When that happened, I felt what? When that happened, what did you feel? I got cut off in traffic. I felt angry. My sister called me with X news. I was offended. Whatever. What was it for you? Weeds in my backyard. I felt what? We're going to use these two things later. All right. So let's talk about the origin of emotions. What are feelings and emotions? What are feelings and emotions? Just pop your ideas in the chat. What are feelings and emotions? If anyone wants to unmute and say something aloud, I'm game. Motivators, great, Ivan. Good, keep it coming. What are feelings and emotions? Feelings and emotions, chemical reactions. Thanks, Sri. Something that control your actions. Go ahead.
I can't seem to get the chat window to open, so I'm going to disconnect and reconnect, and hopefully that fixes it.
Okay. Emotions are responses to the feelings, decisions, mood shifters. Excellent stuff coming through. Awesome. Well, before I answer that question officially, I want to talk about the rain. So I say, now imagine that you have no windows or that I'm telling you the truth. And I say, it's pouring outside. When I say it's pouring outside, what do you feel? It's pouring outside, I feel what? It's pouring outside, I feel, you can pop that in the chat too. I feel happy personally. Worried about driving, good, worried, excellent. Excited. Happy. All right, I want to introduce you to 5 other people in addition to those that are coming in the chat. Annie felt happy like me. Beth felt lazy. Carl felt stressed. Dave felt playful. And Ellen felt afraid. We got some happy people here excited. We got Ivan worried. So my question to you, is the rain causing your experience or their experience? Is it the rain that's causing that? Yes or no? We've got 1 no, pop that in the chat. Yes or no, is the rain causing it? Same rain, a bunch of different experiences, a bunch of different emotions. No, 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 good. Some might be thinking yes, that aren't available for the chat. There's a yes, thank you, Frank. Makes sense. It's raining and I feel this way. Of course it's causing it. For those that said no, what is it? What is causing it? More yeses coming in, excellent. For those that said no, what is causing it in your mind? Thought patterns, and of course, previous experiences associated with the rain. Thoughts of rain, the way I choose to react to the situation. Yes. So, what is? Well, it's what we make the rain mean. It's like the same rain is happening, but we make it mean something. Like for me, it's like the earth needs it. This is great. We're still in a drought. This is awesome. So that created the feeling of happiness. So where do these things come from? A lot of you said this in the chat. Your experiences, your associations, this conditioning can come from how you grew up. It can come from school. It can come from cultural things, religious things, societal norms. All of these things shape the way that we view what's happening in our lives. I want to introduce you to a man named Viktor Frankl. Some of you may have heard of him. He wrote the extraordinary book, Man's Search for Meaning. If you don't have that, please get it and read it. It's a tiny little book, life-changing. He was a concentration camp survivor in World War II. And when he was taken to the camps, he was a psychiatrist. So he entered the camps with both the detachment of a scientist and the humanity of a human. And he noticed that there were two distinct types of prisoners there, a little trigger warning here. Those that would throw themselves at the electric fence if given a nanosecond to do so to end it all. And then those that would fight to live up until their very last breath. And so the scientists in him said, what's this about? Same hideous circumstances, yet two very different ways of looking at it. What is that? And that's when he came up with this extraordinary phrase in the book. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Let's look at this in well, the first thing I thought is space. There's space between stimulus and response. I just thought emotions were like goosebumps. You walk into a cold room and they just happened. And he's saying, no, there's something else at work here. So let's look at it in a flow chart. He's saying something happens and we respond, we feel something. And he's saying there's a space in between those things. And what we discovered with the rain is indeed, there is something going on in that space. And it's the meaning that we assign to what's happening. So what we make what's happening mean to us, the association we have, the memory about it, whatever we're thinking about the stimulus is what creates our feelings. So let's look at Annie. She was the one that was happy. She's like me, the earth needs it. We think alike. What about Beth? Beth felt lazy and she's like, there's something about rain. It makes me want to nest. That's how I am when it rains at night. I just want to nest. And what about Carl? He was stressed. And someone said this in the chat. Traffic will be terrible, stressed about driving. Same rain, notice all these different feelings. Dave, he feels playful and there's something about, I just want to go jump in puddles. I don't know. And Ellen was afraid. Why on earth would she be afraid when it rains? Well, a dog attacked her 10 years ago in the rain. So now when it rains, she's afraid. So she has that association. Now, what about you? What about you? What thought did you think about the rain to create the feeling that you shared in the chat earlier? What thought did you think? Just jot that down. You already know mine. Mine was the earth needs it, like Beth. Annie, whatever her name was. What thought did you think to create that? Molly has good memories of rain growing up in Oregon. Outstanding. So it just feels warm and fuzzy when it rains, doesn't it? Now, it's not, what we learned here is it's not the rain that causes your reaction, it's the thoughts you have about the rain, to summarize. I have a secret to tell you, it's not just the rain. It's not your boss, it's not your mother, it's not your partner, it's not your kids, it's not traffic. Nothing outside of you can cause your feeling. Let me say that again. Nothing outside of you can cause your feeling. Can this be true? Haven't you said to someone in your life, you made me feel this? No, they didn't. They just created a stimulus that you made mean something that created that feeling inside of you. This is a game changer. This is a game changer. It's not what happens outside of you that causes your feeling, your reaction. It's what happens inside. It's an inside job. Your emotions are your responsibility and mine are mine. Now, as I work with a lot of newer leaders sometimes, and actually experienced leaders still struggle with this. Having accountability conversations with someone, they're so afraid of how it's going to land on the other person. I used to do that. Oh my goodness, as a new leader, I would dance around. I wouldn't be direct. Or I would try to avoid the conversation altogether because I didn't want to upset them. I didn't want them to quit. I didn't want them to think I was a bad guy. None of that is my business. My business is my side of the street. And so I teach all my leaders, be as neutral, factual, and kind as you can, and it's going to land where it lands. You've probably said the same words to two different people at some point in your life. Certainly as an employer, say the same exact words. One person says, yeah, whatever, and the other person flips out. Same words. So everyone has their own triggers and you never know where they are. It's like a minefield. So you can only manage your side of the street. A powerful lesson for leaders and for any human, really. Now, what we learned here is if you want to feel a different feeling or have a different response, think a different thought, change what you put in the space. Now, this is a very simple concept, but it's not necessarily easy. It takes a lot of practice to get to this point. If you want to feel a different feeling, think a different thought, change what you put in the space. Excuse me. So the formula for feeling, something happens, you make it mean something, and then you have a feeling or response. That's how it works. Something happens, you make it mean something, and that is what creates your feeling. You're like a Play-Doh fun factory. So I don't know if you know the Play-Doh fun factory, hopefully you do because it's fun. We're the clay, the stimulus is the plunger, and then that little shape thing that you slide over the opening, that's the thought. Now remember, when you put a moon over the clay, you get a moon. If you put a star, you get a star. If you put a sun, you get a sun. The same is true with our thoughts. Each thought will create a different feeling. We're just all Play-Doh fun factories walking around, and you don't control other people's fun factory. It's really important that you know that they control their own. All right, now if you want to be a self-master of your thoughts or of your emotions, something happens. You decide how you want to feel most of your life. How do you want to feel most of your life? Pop that in the chat. I want to feel grateful. Content, beautiful word. Happy, 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 good, good, happy, complete, beautiful. So you decide how you want to feel, and then you think thoughts about what's happening in your life that will create that. With me wanting to feel grateful, and grateful usually makes me happy or joyful, even if the poop is hitting the fan, I can think a thought about that will keep me grateful. Like there's a lesson in here for me. There's something that will help me feel grateful the way I think about it. So yeah, think a thought that creates how you want to feel. So something you would have labeled as unpleasant happens and you want to feel happy. What thought can you think to bring you there? We're going to practice with that later, and you'll see the power that you have. If you only remember there's a couple things to remember, but you have a choice in how you feel and how you react. I want you to know that. You have a choice in how you feel and how you react. And this is great news. It's great news that instead of being a victim of circumstance and, oh no, the world is out to get me, you can't do anything about that, right? The world is going to do what it's going to do. But when you are managing it inside of yourself, when you have the power to choose how you feel, you're not a victim of anything because you have the power. You have the power. This is great news. This is the place where everything lives, that space between stimulus and response. How you process your world decides the quality of your life, period, the end. And you have control over how you process your world. Can you see how this has far-reaching consequences into all tendrils of your life? So now I'm ready to answer the question officially. What are feelings and emotions? Well, they're thoughts felt physiologically. They're thoughts felt physiologically. Scientists still don't know exactly what thoughts are, but all agree that they are electrical. Zap. And feelings are chemical. Somebody mentioned that in the chat, that thoughts and emotions are chemical reactions. They are. They're chemical reactions to our thoughts. So feelings are chemical. They're a little slower. So it's zap flow. And both are super quick. As you know, we have this system that keeps things pretty quick inside of us. So what does this look like? Well, I like to, looks like the tiger. I like to show the tiger because the best way to talk about how this all works is by introducing you or just referencing fight, flight, or freeze, that reaction that we have. We humans are evolutionarily programmed for survival, and we have this part of us called the autonomic nervous system. And it's constantly scanning for threats. I compare it to antivirus software working in the background, constantly looking for threats. It's a very primitive, primal part of us, and it operates below our conscious awareness. So it's always there. And what happens? Well, we perceive a threat. Remember, perceive intimates thinking. So we think a threat, we perceive a threat. This thought releases chemicals. In this case, the tiger, we need adrenaline and cortisol to get us to run or whatever to deal with the threat. So it releases chemicals to help us deal with the threat. And let's look at what this looks like. So the tiger's coming, I'm gonna die, is the threat thought. Tiger's coming, I'm gonna die. Zap, flow. Oh no, it's still coming. I'm gonna die today. Ah! It's coming, I'm gonna die. So it's thought, stress, thought, stress, thought, stress, thought, stress. Now, as long as you think a similar thought, you are going to feel a similar feeling. In the case of the tiger chasing you, this is fantastic because you need those chemicals continuing to pump through you to deal with the threat. So keep thinking those thoughts so you have the energy you need. It's wonderful. This is why we're still alive as a species. Now, in today's world, there's fewer tigers roaming the streets. There are life-threatening emergencies, and so we have our autonomic nervous system ready to deal with that. However, they're usually not in our everyday life. So we have fewer life-threatening situations, but we still have the autonomic nervous system, and it still has a job to do. So what does it do? It finds threats in our everyday environment. Finds threats in our everyday environment. What does this look like? My boss looked at me funny. Stress. Oh no, I do. She's going to want to talk to me later. Stress. I can't afford to lose my job. Stress. So again, as long as you think a similar thought, you will get a similar chemical cascade, which will create a similar feeling inside of you. Now, the chemicals mix and match according to the thought you're thinking. In this case, we're talking stress chemicals. So, simple thing, my boss looked at me funny, and now you're off and running with this cascade of stress because you're thinking similar thoughts. This can last seconds, minutes, hours, days. Have you ever marinated over something for days and had that same feeling? Weeks and even years. There are people that are in really the same level of upset as when the original event happened years ago. My mother was kind of like that. She could hold a resentment like nobody's business because she kept running these same thoughts over and over again. Now, there's good news here. We have a higher function, our neocortex, and this allows us to interfere with our fight, flight, or freeze response, our initial response. So how do we do this? First, we need to become aware that we're triggered. Become aware when we're triggered. The second thing I want you to remember today is pause when triggered. It can save you a whole lot of mess. Pause when triggered. So become aware that you're triggered. Take a breath, ideally a deep belly breath. A belly breath will activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of us that calms us down. It's our natural calming mechanism. And that in itself will change the chemical cascade and allow us to see things more clearly. Even becoming aware that you're triggered will change your chemical cascade because instead of being in the trigger, you'll be looking at it. All right, so pause and breathe. Put a new thought in the mix if you can. If you can, and if you can't, simply pause and breathe. That'll be good. But I'm going to show you how the diagram of this. Put a new thought in the mix, and be aware that you may not be thinking clearly. Research shows that one threat thought will create about 90 seconds worth of chemical, and once that starts, it can't stop. So you may catch yourself at second 10, but you still got 80 seconds of that old chemical cascade of stress or whatever you're feeling washing through you, and it has to finish. So be aware that you may not be thinking clearly. We get a fog of emotion over our eyes and ears, and we can't perceive things objectively. So what does this look like? Same example. My boss looked at me funny. Ooh, I'm triggered. Pause, breathe. It probably has nothing to do with me. Neutral. She's probably just having a bad day. Neutral. So you see, we change from stress to something more neutral by pausing, breathing, and putting a different thought in. Now, can you get rid of the initial trigger? Yes, with some great coaching or therapy, some of these triggers can be lifted, but let's just assume for the sake of our time together is that first trigger is going to happen. Boom, it's going to hit. I like to say that you own the second thought. You own the second thought. And the second thought is to notice that you're triggered, pause and breathe. All right, this is a good time to just open to questions. Please unmute and ask your question out loud if you have one. I know I just covered a lot of land.
So the second thought isn't thinking something different. It's just acknowledging the situation and then allowing yourself that 90 seconds to wait.
I would love to say that it is putting the second the new thought in, but if you think about it practically, you really have to notice you're triggered before you can do that, I think.
Okay.
But hey, Rudy, if you're able, go for it. Go for it.
I guess I'm just clarifying because I didn't understand
Yeah.
what else the second thought would be.
The second thought is just changing what you perceive. So my boss looked at me funny. In the old model, you were going to, oh no, I did something, right? What did I do wrong? So instead of going there, you go, oh, pause and breathe. Then you can look at it more objectively. I have no idea if this has anything to do with me or not. Does that make sense, Rudy?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, we make stuff up all day long. That's what we do. We're meaning makers. And we often make up things about that everything is referenced towards us. And it's not. It's not. If your boss is angry at you, would you rather live between the time they look at you funny to when you actually find out, like happy and fine? Or would you rather be stressed out of your mind until you find out? Most things that I've worried about in my life never really happened. It was just stuff I made up. Thank you for the question, Rudy.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I've definitely caught myself reacting to something like at work, someone says something, someone does something, reacting to it and feeling upset by it and actually thinking to myself, why can't I think clearly about this? And yeah, that makes sense because I haven't actually gotten out of that reaction.
Yes, and because it's what you're thinking about it, Rudy. Can you think of an example that happened where you were upset by it that you're willing to share with the group? A stimulus?
I mean, you know, like I've always reacted badly to someone being condescending.
Okay,
like
perfect.
if someone makes a
Bob
condescending comment.
Yeah, Bob made a comment that seemed condescending, or Bob made a comment and you perceive that as he's being condescending, right? And that created a feeling of what?
I mean, the reaction is always being upset, and it's you know it's immediate. I think my default reaction is to immediately push back, like say, no, that's not okay. But I think sometimes, especially in a business situation, there wasn't actually any real value in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now I'm getting better at just kind of saying, okay, making note, that guy's a jerk. Let's move on.
Yes, maybe Bob is just condescending to everyone. Maybe Bob didn't recognize the tone he was using. Maybe you perceived his tone as condescending when somebody else wouldn't, right? So there's all kinds of things at play here. And if you ever get stuck, try to find observable facts. And the observable fact is Bob said something. That's really the observable fact. And then you perceived a tone that was condescending. Once we really click into observable facts, there's a lot of peace to be found there. There's a lot of peace.
If I may,
yeah,
it seems like if you can be tuned in enough to recognize, oh wow, this is a very unexpected, strong emotion that I'm having.
Mm-hmm.
Almost down to that moment where you're like, oh, and be present enough to recognize that moment when you're triggered. And then that's when you pause. And then that's the golden moment where you can actually make that shift.
That is the golden moment. And I work with a variety of people, and when they learn to pause when triggered, things get better quickly. If you don't pause and you react emotionally, you often create wreckage that you have to clean up later. And sometimes some of that can't be cleaned up. It affects your reputation. It may affect your relationship. You can't pull those words back that may have seemed hurtful to the other person. So if you can just pause and breathe and not talk, even just buy yourself 2 seconds to just not talk when you're triggered, you'll save yourself a lot of heartache and others a lot of heartache and stuff that you have to clean up later. You may still opt to say what you were going to say, which is great, but I want you to say it from a conscious place, not from a reactionary place. Yeah, the golden moment. I like it, Molly. All right, let's keep going, and we'll have more chance to ask questions. All right, good, good, good. So the diagram I showed you is really how this works. We think a thought, we make it mean something, and that causes a reaction. These are the mechanics I want to leave you with. The mechanics. I'm showing you the mechanics, and then it's up to you to really work on them. And we'll talk about how to do that. Do I expect you to leave here and just be outstanding with it? No, this takes a lot of practice, a lot of repetition, and growth is not a straight line. All right, let's take a quick detour because I want to just talk about emotions and some myths that we have about them. And I want to introduce you to something called the ladder of emotions. And just imagine that emotions are on the ladder. And at the bottom of the ladder, so they're all on different rungs based on their energetic qualities. So on the bottom, you have things like hate and fear, self-doubt, resentment, anger, self-loathing, shame is a huge one. Bottom of the ladder. At the top of the ladder, peace, joy, love, inspiration, creativity, happiness, top of the ladder. So how do you feel? How do you feel when you're at the bottom of the ladder? Just pop some ideas in the chat. How do you feel when you're at the bottom of the ladder and hate, fear, self-doubt, resentment, anger? Heavy, yes. What else? Self-doubt, self-judgment, shame, physically ill. Great, Jorge. Yes, super low. Anxiety. It does not feel good there. It does not feel good there. And how do you feel when you're at the top? How do you feel when you're in peace, joy, love, inspiration, creativity, happiness, gratitude, light? Amazing. Me too, Kim. I feel like I can do anything when I'm at the top of the ladder. Yes, extraordinary. I lose track of time. I forget to eat, which for me is crazy. But man, at the top of the ladder, anything is possible. So yes, excited and confident. So we are raised to think that there are good and bad emotions, positive and negative emotions, good and bad. And I just want to dispel that. Instead of good and bad, they're high and low energy. So at the bottom of the ladder, you usually have low energy and tend to want to hide. So dark room covers over your head, right? Low energy, tend to want to hide. At the top of the ladder, you tend to have high energy and want to see people. From which place is it easier to find a job from, or to lead a team from a place of energy wanting to see people? So there are no good and bad emotions, rather high and low energy. And all emotions are good because they're all here to teach us something. They're all here to teach us something. There we go. And I want to stop for a moment and say, I'm teaching you how to shift how you feel about something, but I want to let you know that you have the right to feel any way you want to feel about anything for as long as you want to feel about it, right? If you're in the bottom of the ladder, you have every right to be there and to stay there. I just want you to know that when you're ready to leave, there's a way out. And the way out is through the formula that I taught you. Begin looking at things through a different lens. Tell yourself different things about your world. I'm not talking about clinical depression, by the way, or any mental illness. This is just outside of that. So sometimes suffering can have great meaning. Being at the bottom of the ladder has served me over time because I learned something down there, if nothing else, that I don't want to be there and I'm ready to spring out of there, that I don't like being there. Or maybe you the anger was righteous that you were feeling and you really needed to feel good. When you're ready to come out, you now have the power to do that. But I don't want you to leave here thinking that it's not okay what you're feeling and you have to switch it. What I'm giving you is the mechanics on how to switch it when you want to, if you want to. But you have the right to be anywhere on the ladder as long as you want to be there. All right. So earlier today, where were you on the ladder? Where were you on the ladder? Middle, top, bottom? Pop that in the chat. Hi, boy, I'd say in the middle. Yeah, middle. Look at you guys, all chilling in the middle. Where would you like to be instead? You have the power to decide. You have the power to decide. If you were in the bottom, that's cool. You have the power to decide if you want to leave it or stay there. If you're in the middle and you'd rather be higher, you have the power to get there. You do. All right, while we're on this detour, let's talk about how to process our emotions in a healthy way, because we're humans and humans are emotional creatures. I was born to a wildly emotional mother and a father who really didn't do emotions. He said, who has time for that stuff? Seriously. And my mother was also a hoarder. She had some mental illness, and I equated emotions with crazy. So I swore off emotions at a very early age. I wanted to be more like my strong, stoic father, right? Well, that doesn't work so well. It doesn't work so well. I ended up stuffing my emotions as a kid. And then that didn't work so well. So I began drinking at 14. And yeah, that worked pretty well for a while until it didn't. And I've been sober for years now. But yeah, a lot of people turn to either excessive busyness or some other addictive behavior, drugs, alcohol, gambling, what have you, shopping, to not feel, And busyness is one of those addictions. So if you're somebody who can't stop because you're afraid to be alone with yourself, I just want to offer that for your consideration. So I want to introduce you to some healthy ways, and we're going to go through them quickly. First, be aware of what you're feeling. Be aware that you are an emotional creature, and name the emotion that you're feeling. So many people are just not used to doing that. Like I never felt angry. I never felt resentment. So I may not have recognized it when it was actually there. So in the moment, say, hey, I feel hurt. I feel emotion. I feel angry. I feel resentment. Whatever you're feeling, just try naming it. Breathing is a fantastic way. And again, that deep belly breath will activate your parasympathetic nervous system and begin to let that chemical cascade wash through you. Emotions are meant to wash through us and not hang around. It's the stoking of a similar thought that will keep the marination going indefinitely. Allow yourself to have emotions. Again, I stuffed mine. I pretended I didn't have them. If you're feeling angry, be angry. Just let yourself be angry and say, hey, I'm human, I'm angry. And then ask yourself if you're ready. Well, actually, that's a different strategy. Looking deeper, ask yourself, what is it about it, the situation that is making you angry? And that's where the learning can come from. The learning about why you're triggered in the way that you are. Back to, I can't remember who was sharing, but why does someone being condescending, why does that affect you in the way that it does? It's worth a question. Exercising choice, understanding consequence. You know, if you're angry, you're a grown adult, you can punch somebody in the face. You can do that. You have agency to do that. Just know if you do that, there will likely be a consequence, right? Right. So you get to choose how to express your anger. I was just working with a client a few hours ago, and she said, I realized recently that I don't have to act on every feeling I have. Incredibly freeing. Other strategies. Freeform writing is a great way to express that anger or what you're feeling in a way that doesn't hurt others. It doesn't affect others. And it's just grabbing a piece of paper and just writing, not judging what you're writing, just getting it out, kind of like a vomit on paper. And until you'll notice eventually that the energy changes of what you're writing. And this is not a journaling exercise. You take it to the shredder and you shred it. It's not meant to be kept. It's not meant to be reread, just getting it out of you and into destruction. It's a fantastic thing that can be done very quickly. Talking it out is great, but be careful. That's the asterisk. Be careful that you're not talking to someone who's going to stoke that fire. You're going to think, yeah, so-and-so said this to me. I couldn't believe it. I was so offended. Yeah, you should be, right? Then you're going to have more, you're going to feel even worse after talking to them, unless, of course, you want to feel that righteousness or whatever you're feeling. Instead, turn to someone and say, I'd just like to process this with you. I'm not looking to get anything fixed. I don't need you to agree with me. I just need to say this. So talking it out in that way and then saying it out. This may sound a little wacky, but it's said that if you walk home from work every day and stop and talk to a telephone pole or a light pole for 10 minutes, you'll just live an extraordinary life. We need to say things out loud. So when you're driving home, just let it out. You know, now we have these things in your ears, so nobody's going to think you're talking to yourself. And just get it all out. It's a fantastic way to process your emotions without affecting another soul. Being of service can be a wonderful way to just gain some different perspective on how good or bad you have it when you're of service to someone else. Physical activity, of course, gets different chemicals flowing through your body, which will push the other ones through. And is a fantastic strategy. So of those, just what was your favorite? What is your go-to to process emotions? If anybody would like to pop it in the chat, go for it. My first one is allowing. Yeah, breathing, super. Talking it out, writing. Excellent. All right. So what do we do with this darn space? Remember, when you're ready to climb your ladder of emotions, the way to do it is to master the space between stimulus and response. So the very first thing to do is to find the space. You're probably not used to thinking that there is a space between stimulus and response, that your feeling is a result of the thought that you're thinking. It's just like something happened and I feel this. No, something happened, I made it mean something and I feel this. So finding the space is first. To do this, you have to step out of your default. I always tell my clients, you've been in this body for decades, and to expect it's going to change in a minute is unrealistic. And you've been a certain way a long time, you'll have these tendencies. So you have to step out of your default and begin looking at your life as a neutral observer. That was interesting that I got triggered then. It was interesting that happened. So neutral, it's almost like you're watching TV. You're watching yourself outside of yourself rather than being in it and in the upset. Of course, pause and breathe. Pause and breathe when triggered. If there's two things I want you to take, one is that you have some control over how you feel. And the other one is pause and breathe when triggered, because that is absolutely life and leadership changing. When you do that, just notice what you're thinking and feeling. Now, once you find the space and you're aware of it, you have an opportunity to fill the space with something else. So fill the space with a thought that will create the feeling that you want to feel. Or ask yourself, how can I look at this situation in a different way? How can I look at this? What else might be happening here? Or what would a neutral party, what would anybody see as an observable fact here? And realize the rest you're making up. Experiment, try this. And then just be patient with yourself, be gentle with yourself, because as I said, growth is not a straight line. Now, when my clients begin to work on this, they tend to do it in hindsight. So when you're new to it, it's very hard to do the thought changing in the moment. So maybe you had an emotional reaction during the day And when you're driving home, think about that. Okay, so what happened? Well, when so-and-so said this, I felt this. Oh, what did I make it mean that she said this? Like, what did I put in the space? And so start doing that and learning in that way. And the more you do that, the more you'll learn, and the more you'll be able to do it either in the moment. But really what happens is people are upset for a day. Maybe their old way of being is they're upset for 3 days. And then they get to a point where they're only upset for 1. And then they get to the point where they're only upset for like 2 hours, and so on. And eventually you get to the place where you just don't get upset in the moment at all, because you've mastered your ability to fill the space with something that serves you rather than something that upsets you. Yeah, just notice and experiment again. I'm a big fan of experimentation. And this is what happens when you fill the space as a resilient self-leader. Just to review, something happens, you know how you want to feel, and you think a thought that creates that. That's when you're the master of your emotions. You may not be able to control what happens to you. You know, the world is going to do what it's going to do. Sometimes you can control what happens to you, but more often than not, you can't. But you absolutely can control your reaction to it. You can. And you get to choose your experience by choosing your thoughts. So powerful. And this is the ultimate superpower that no one teaches us about. Your life will change dramatically if you really lean into this and work it. So let's open to more questions, and then we're gonna head into an experiential exercise where you can actually use this with something real and present in your life. Questions, comments?
I was hesitant about whether to share this or not because it's something I heard from somebody else. It was but I think it dovetails really well into what you were describing. I should turn my camera so it's not so.
There he is. Hey, Rudy.
Yeah. Hi. So it was in one of these LinkedIn learning courses on leadership, and what the person described was when you find yourself kind of reacting to something, you can think of it like you've gone off the freeway. Like if you took a wrong turn, you're in a neighborhood you don't know, you're not familiar with it. So think to yourself, I'm gonna get back on the freeway, and then imagine getting on that ramp back onto the freeway. And I think that actually, like everything you're describing, I think those two ideas really fit together really well. The idea of you acknowledge, okay, I'm reacting to this chemical reaction, and now I need to take a moment, take a breath, get back on that freeway and go the direction I want to go by thinking that thought.
Yes, that's the on-ramp. That's the on-ramp. Yes. And you're reacting to the chemical reaction, but remember that all starts with the thought. The thought is what creates the chemical reaction.
Yeah,
Even
no,
though it happens.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. I'm sure that analogy was of service to someone here.
Okay.
Other than us. Good. Other questions, comments, concerns? Jorge, anything to add? Any questions? Any thoughts?
No, it's just it's a great way to approach things. I'm actually thinking about it, how there's a lot of situations, and I especially like when you talk about not feeling bad when you go back to your old ways, because being a student in the MBA program, we're always trying to do bigger and better things, and sometimes we are too hard on ourselves, and that's something that I definitely need to work on.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I work with a lot of high achieving people, and there are some tendencies of high achievers. One is to be very, very hard on themselves. But let's say you're trying to get to 10 and you've gotten to 7. Instead of celebrating all the work it took to get to 7, all that the classic high achiever can see is, yeah, but there's 3 left. And that can be a very stressful, full of just self-judgment. Instead, just stop and celebrate. Say, man, I worked hard to get here. Only 3 left, right? So you still have the 3 left, but just take a minute to acknowledge yourself for what it took. there's a level of dissatisfaction that permeates the high achiever because nothing is ever quite good enough. And I just want you to know that you have some control over that. You can flip that thinking to more of an acknowledgement, and know that at any point you don't even have to finish to 10 if you don't want to, and it doesn't mean anything about you, your worth as a person, if that makes sense. Yeah, Jorge, really great comment. Thank you. I know others can relate.
Laura, I do have a question here from
Yeah.
Michael. He says, how many emotions are there?
Oh my Lord, that's such a good question. And I have a book in the next room called Power versus Force. I don't recall. Oh, one thing from emotional intelligence I know is there are 5 master emotions and all the others fall underneath them. So there are 5 main ones. In fact, I will go get that real quick. The five main ones.
I love the books that she has recommended so far. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Can't wait to get that and read it, Laura. Power versus Force. I've heard that one as well.
The 5 masters are happy, sad, angry, afraid, and ashamed. And 6, 7, 6, and 6. There's at least 20. There's at least 20 under each of those, so probably 100. Interesting question. Cool. Yeah, put that in the chat, please. I don't know if you know of Emotional Intelligence 2.0, but it's a classic. It's a goodie, and it comes. What I love about that book is it comes with an assessment. So there's a little envelope that enables you to take 2 assessments: a before you read and an after you read assessment. It's great investment. Time for one more question.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, before responding, we'll have some thoughts, right? Like we process our thoughts. And is there a way to process our thoughts faster?
I think that I'm not quite sure how to answer that because it's loaded. When I think of the ultimate answer to that question, it's like if I believe that we have a master lens, right? I have a bunch of glasses here. I got like 3 different pairs of glasses, and each one offers me something different. These are computer glasses, so they have a little anti-glare thing, right? I put on other glasses, they give me something else. If I'm looking through my world, there's a very common belief that a lot of people have. If I'm looking through my world through the lens of I'm not good enough, right? This is very, very common. I'm not good enough. Then if this is over the space, those glasses are over the space, it's going to affect everything you think about what's happening in your world. If your boss does look at you funny, you're going to think it's you if you don't think you're good enough. Makes sense? Now, if I'm wearing the glasses of I want to feel content, then if my boss looks at me funny, I'm probably not even, I'm going to go, wonder what's happening with him. So the only way I can answer your question straight, I don't know how to process thoughts faster because they happen in a nanosecond, you know, but the thoughts that you will think will be easier to think thoughts that serve you if you change your master lens. Is that helpful at all, Sri?
Yeah, actually, that's a great way to look.
Great. Yes. So if you're thinking you're not good enough, or you're not worthy, or I don't belong, all of these are very, very common. You're going to self-reference everything you see from that place. Rudy, this quote unquote condescending, if something in you feels less than, I'm not saying this is true for you, when someone is condescending, that will be a tender spot that will hurt, and you will feel some sort of emotion because of it. If you feel full and good enough, someone acting like that, you're just going to go like, dude, what's up with him, right? So it all depends on how you're seeing your world.
Thank you.
All right, let's work on this this exercise, because this is the meat and potatoes of why we're here. All right, so you don't have this worksheet, and I definitely want you to participate in this as if you do. So the model is on the left. That thing that disturbed your peace earlier, I want you to write that at the top. We're going to basically recreate this little diagram. What happened? What thought did you think about that? Remember earlier you identified what happened and how you felt. Put those in there at the top and bottom, and in the middle, identify the thought that you thought about the stimulus that created that feeling. This is your Play-Doh Fun Factory. And I'm wondering if anyone is willing to share their fun factory aloud. Or if anyone is having trouble identifying the thought that they thought, because I'd love to help you here. And oh, Michael, thank you. Michael, what was your stimulus?
I got a bill.
I got a bill. And you felt?
I felt angry.
Excellent. What thought did you think about the bill that made you angry?
I was afraid that it was costing me too much and that I was going to run out of money eventually.
Perfect. Perfect. Of money. Excellent. Boy, I don't know about y'all on the phone, but I have had plenty of financial fears in my life, and I go from zero, I go from fine to, oh my God, I'm going to be, a bag lady in the street when I'm 80 with nobody to take care of me. Like, I can do that in a nanosecond. Less so now. All right. So Michael, that was outstanding. And I just want to make sure that we are ready to move on. I'm going to continue with Michael. Has everyone put a yes in the chat if indeed you have done your exercise, and just let me know if you need help with your exercise. What happened, what you made it mean, and what feeling resulted? Got 3 yeses. Good. Great. Great. We are working the fun factory. All right, now we're going to slide a different thing over the opening of the Play-Doh Fun Factory. We're in column B, same stimulus. What could you think? What could you make that event mean to get the new feeling? And the new feeling I want you to aim for is neutral. Neutral. What thought could you think about what happened to bring you to neutral? Even if you can't imagine thinking it in real life, what could you or could someone else think about it to bring you to neutral? And anyone that needs help, let me know. Even in the chat privately. Because sometimes we're so attached to these stimuli, we really believe them, and it's hard to think another thought. All right, Michael, what thought could you have thought about? Oh, yeah, what thought could you have thought about receiving that bill that could bring you to neutral?
I just had to think a lot. I thought about what I actually have and what the bill actually means. And
good. So it sounds like, yeah, you want to bring yourself to meh, neutral. So it sounds like, okay, I got this. Is that accurate?
yes.
Yeah, I have enough money. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to run out of money because of this bill. And I laugh out of love and my own financial fears, believe me. I giggle. All right, after column B, who has completed column B? Put your yes in the chat. Yeah, good. All right, let's go to column C. And this may be a stretch for some of you, depending on your stimulus, because again, some of these stimuluses are tough stimuli. What could you think, same event, whoops, what could you think to bring you to either happy or grateful? What could you think about that same event to bring you to happy or grateful? You never have to think this, but what could you, should you want to? All right, when you've identified that, go ahead and put a yes in the chat. Excellent. All right, Michael, what could you think about that bill to bring you to happy or grateful?
I thought that God takes good care of me and I don't have anything to worry about.
Very nice. Very nice. Another grateful thought you could think is, I'm so blessed that I have the money, right? There are a number of thoughts we can think to bring ourselves up the ladder. So good. And thank you for sharing that. I would love to hear some other fun factories. So who's willing? I know all these yeses, you've been doing this exercise. So who is willing to come forward and share your fun factory with us?
Okay, so I wasn't
All right,
really
Rudy.
forthcoming. I wasn't really forthcoming before about the condescending thing. That was more of something that isn't as big of a deal as it had been years ago. And that was more of a reaction, kind of seeing it like that was like a bullying behavior. What's actually relevant, which probably
Good.
is more relevant
Give me a stimulus.
people, is especially in growing companies, there's a lot of it's unclear who's responsible for what. So
Okay.
something that I keep running into is the understanding that I'm supposed to be responsible for a particular project. And then when that responsibility isn't clearly defined for everybody, there's occasions where someone else starts kind of, and maybe they had a conversation with my manager, I'm not aware of it, they start kind of getting more involved and taking on some of the responsibility. And that always generates a kind of like, hey, this is the thing I'm working on, you know.
Okay, so let's
what's
pause.
this person doing?
Let's pause. In the interest of focus, I just want to bring it together. So give me a stimulus. What happened?
But that was it.
So
So
no, just boil it down to like 7 words, something like that.
working on a project, and then someone else starts getting more actively involved, taking on a leadership role.
Perfect. So-and-so getting in my project, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And that made you feel what initially?
The reaction is negative. It's kind of like it's like a 5-year-old child. Hey, this is my sandbox, you know, get out of my sandbox.
Does that make you feel, so that's the thought you're thinking. The thought you're thinking is get out of my sandbox.
Yes, it's the thought is it's mine, you know.
Great, it's mine, perfect. So someone got in my project, your thought, what you put in the space is it's mine, it's not your business. And then that created a feeling of anger, being offended, or what?
Well, it's not so much the problem. Yes, anger, offended. The problem is that it creates that moment of confusion of
Confused.
why can't I
Perfect.
figure out how to react to this?
Yeah, well that's like double that we're kind of, yeah. Then this exercise would get quite complicated. So someone's in my project. Well, now you know how to
Yeah.
do it.
So I've worked out the next 2 examples.
Good. So what thought could you think about somebody getting your project to bring you to neutral?
That we're collaborating. To not
Perfect.
think of it like they're taking it away, think, hey, we're just collaborating on this thing together towards the same goal.
Yes, it could be that. Another idea that comes to my mind is it's an opportunity to clarify roles. That could be another thought you think. I don't know. And then what thought could you think about somebody getting in on your project to bring you to happy or grateful?
I was realizing I could think of it more if I took a more confident kind of approach to it. It's not just that we're collaborating, it's that we're collaborating in a way that I could learn something to move this more towards the goal that I'm trying to get the project towards. So in other words, it becomes, we're not just collaborating, we're collaborating, but I'm still in control of the project, or I can still be in control of the project.
So good. So good. Well done, Rudy. Yes. So why can't I think differently about this? Now you have the tools to think differently about it.
Yeah, so it's a great system.
Excellent. Outstanding. Thank you again, Rudy. Super. Who is next? Fun Factory. Lucero.
Yes, hi. Okay, so I was gonna share mine because I am a little bit confused because
Good.
Because it's not
What's
really
your stimulus?
my stimulus is my nephew's getting bullied. That was what I found out.
Nephew bullied, and when you found that out, you felt what?
Terrified.
Terrified. Perfect. And what thought did you think about your nephew being bullied that created terrified?
That he cannot defend himself.
Perfect. He can't defend himself. So what thought could you think about that to bring you to neutral? My nephew's being bullied.
That he will defend himself.
Is that true? Is that something that you can believe?
That's I think that's my confusion. Like, okay, what if I don't really believe it? Something to bring me neutral. That the principal will do something about it.
Do you have any control over who's the parent of the nephew? A brother or sister of yours?
My sister.
Might she have this or no?
Might she have this information?
No, might she
be able to control? Yes, that I can think.
Yeah, so could something about your sister's ability to deal with this bring you to neutral?
Yes.
Just an idea.
Yeah.
Good. So
her strong character.
There we go. So my sister is of strong character, can bring you to neutral. She's got this.
Yes.
I think you're taking on a worry that's not necessarily yours, and I acknowledge you for worrying about your nephew. I'm not saying you don't have, you shouldn't. It's just optional, right? I'm showing you different ways to look at this. Okay, what thought? This is. I'm so glad you spoke up, because this is one of those stimuli that, how on earth could I be happy or grateful about my nephew being bullied? So what did you come up with, or what could you come up with?
Okay, so the only thing I can come up with was that he will actually, like, I can see him standing up for himself, and that would make me happy.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for him to become more confident and in himself. I love it.
Well, thank you for that guidance, because I was like trying to, I said, how could I get there?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And I'm so glad you spoke with that stimulus, because that's hard to be happy or grateful about. And we found a way. And again, this is just the mechanics. Whether you can actually think these thoughts or not, it's up to you. But these are thoughts you could think to bring you to a different emotional experience.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Let's hear one more Fun Factory. These different examples, I think, really help people get it. Help you all. Anyone?
I'll bring mine up.
And Jorge, your stimulus is?
So I had a coworker that got upset with me today.
Perfect.
Yeah, and my thought was, why are they upset? I'm helping them, and my feeling was upset. I was frustrated.
Excellent. So what did you see in your coworker that told you they were upset? What did you see or hear? What kind of thing?
Well, he yelled at me for missing the
Okay,
deadline.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty objective that a neutral observer would think the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, coworker yelled at me. I thought, what are they doing? I'm helping them, and that made you feel frustrated. Excellent. And what thought could you have thought about that to bring you to neutral? Same circumstance, yelled at. I mean, yelled at. How could you be neutral about that?
He's going through a lot.
Yeah. Is that true? Is he going through a lot?
Yes.
Yeah, probably has nothing to do. If someone's reacting emotionally to you, it has everything to do with them and not a lot to do with you. Remember, they have their own fun factory. So
Yeah.
he's yelling at you because of what's going on inside of him. So he has a lot going on. Compassion in the space is a really wonderful way to get to neutral. By the way, what I didn't say earlier is neutral rocks. If you can get to neutral, neutral is a place where you have clear thinking, great decision making, creativity lives in neutrality. If you're too high emotionally or too low emotionally, you have that fog of emotion, even with high. So neutral, if you can bring yourself to neutral, you have great access to clear thinking. And that is the key to, that's what we're here for, is about clear thinking. So he's going through a lot. Having compassion for him in that moment brought you to neutral. Awesome. And you can stop there if you want, but we're going to go to happy or grateful. What could you have thought about being yelled at to bring you to happy or grateful?
I can help make the situation better. I can work hard and make the whole situation a lot better.
A chance to create understanding and to make things even better and stronger. Yeah. So you don't have to react to being yelled at. It's very natural to, again, have that first trigger of what's going on, but then you own that second thought. Pause, breathe, and gain control. So good, everyone, for sharing your fun factory. And remember, everybody's got their own, and it's not your responsibility to fix their factory. We have very little control over others. That's another lesson as a leader. You can try to influence them, but we have very little control. Now, in an employment situation, you do have expectations and standards, and hopefully you have accountability and disciplinary practices to move you along there. But people have the right to act any way they want. It just may not work in an employment situation. All right, let's talk about real life and how to put these tools to work. First of all, just remember this formula. Remember that it is indeed your thoughts that are creating your feelings about what's happening. Practice finding the space, really identifying your thoughts. And as I said, this usually happens in arrears. It usually happens looking back on your day and saying, why did I get upset? What was I thinking about what happened? Practice filling the space with something else. If you're still in the upset, now's the time to choose the new thought. And eventually get that to where you can do it in the moment. And a great way to do that is to change your master lens and start seeing the world in a different way that's not so self-referenced and based on insecurity. Again, very, very common. Experiment. It will be like this. It will be like this. I've had people get so adept at this way of being and then come into a session and go, I feel like I've lost everything I've gained. And it's not true. Just a little reset. But there is something about knowing that you're responsible for your own feelings, that you can never put that genie back in the bottle. You can never tell anyone ever that they made you feel a certain way. It's just not true. No, giving that up's hard. When you're experimenting, look back, be self-aware, what worked, what didn't, what would I do next time? Oh, wow, I forgot to pause and breathe and look what happened. That was a mess. Or, wow, I handled that really well. These skills move you from reaction to response, from victim to owner. You're not a victim of the world. You have agency over what happens inside of you. And when you change inside, outside becomes a whole lot easier. There is a space between what happens and how we react. And it's so important to remember that it's not what outside of you that's causing your reaction. It's what's happening inside with your thoughts. Fight, flight, or freeze. It will happen. It will happen throughout your day. Anytime you're upset, you're in a level of fight, flight, or freeze. Be aware of it, let it pass through and disrupt it with your neocortex. Remember your emotions, they're all good because they're all here to teach you something. They're not good or bad. Instead, they're high or low emotions. Just know that if you're in those bottom of the ladder emotions, you're likely going to feel low energy and want to hide. And if you're in those, if you're at the top of the ladder, you're likely going to feel high energy and want to see people. It's just how it works for most people. There are healthy ways to process emotions. Name them, write them out, talk them out, speak them out, work them out, all kinds of ways. Practice choosing different thoughts to create different feelings and results. Use that fun factory, put different shapes over the opening. This leads to less stress and frustration, more focus, more creativity, more clear thinking, more graceful work. It just changes literally every aspect of your life. And any final questions? And then I'm going to ask you for your biggest takeaway today. Any final questions or comments? Now's your chance. I am going to, oh, great, mine is breath.
Yeah,
Molly?
just wanted to ask if you had any other resources you could recommend. I did put a few of those books in the chat, but if anything else comes to mind, that would be helpful for people. That would be great. If not, you provided so much already, but just wanted to put that to you.
There is an extraordinary book. It's a little different, but it's called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. In particular, chapter 2. If you only get it to read chapter 2, it's extraordinary. He takes what I shared with you and just breaks it down in a way that is meaningful on a whole new level. I wish I could write like that. So Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. The whole book may not be your cup of tea, but chapter 2 is, I think, should be required reading for all humans. It's called The Present Moment, and it's about emotions and how we get in these cycles of feeling the same way, and we have the familiar past and we create the predictable future, and that's why we often feel the same way throughout our lives, and we never quite escape our old way of being. Thank you, Molly. All right, I'm gonna call on everyone, and I'm gonna give you a heads up to when so I'm gonna say, let's hear from Hannah, then Rudy. And if I see you unmute, I'll know you're going to offer your top takeaway. I know some of you may not be able to do that. You may be driving or whatever, but let's start at the top. Top takeaway, if you're only taking one thing out of this room, what is it? Hannah and then Rudy. Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that today I learned that I'm the one who's creating the emotions and that's not what people are doing. Like the situation I'm in, I'm the one who's like putting the feeling to it. So I need to kind of just own it, you know what I mean?
Amazing, Hannah. Yes, great takeaway. Rudy and then Jorge. Rudy.
I really like that formula for emotional self-mastery. I think because it's not just you kind of saying these things, but by giving us the formula, it means that after something doesn't go the way that we'd want it to go, we have this formula for self-reflection. So we could look at it afterwards. Okay, how could I handle that better? And then hopefully do it better next time. So that's so really helpful.
I'm so glad. That's what I want to do, is provide tools that you can use forever.
This has been my favorite. I've been to a lot of these speaker series this year, and this is by far my favorite, and the thing which I think is really the most valuable so far. So I want to thank you for being here, and I also want to thank the school for bringing you in.
Awesome. Thank you, Rudy. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Rudy.
Jorge, then Kim. Jorge, top takeaway.
Patience. When you see your emotions coming that you don't want, step back, take a breath. That was the
You
most
got
important
it.
for me.
Pause when triggered and breathe. Kim, then Karen. Kim.
For me would be pause. Take that deep breath in before you say anything. I think that really stuck with me, and also that example with the ladder. I think the ladder was such an eye opener on where to place yourself on the ladder.
Mm-hmm. And that you have the power to move on the ladder as you see fit. Beautiful. Karen, then Denise. Karen. And Denise, then Michael. Denise.
For me, it's the thought of practicing mindfulness so that I can always come back to neutral.
Yes. Neutral rocks. Awesome. Michael, then Mary Ellen. Michael.
I like to find the space, breathe, and then fill the space.
Woohoo! Beautiful. Mary Ellen, then Sana. Mary Ellen. Sana, then Frank. Sana.
To be aware of your emotions.
Beautiful. Name it
and
if
why
you can.
you're feeling it, why you're having that feeling.
That's the advanced stuff.
To
yes.
acknowledge it.
Super. Frank, then Ayub. Frank.
Yeah, I think to finding the space, pause and breathe. But I thought about, I think these are little changes because of our mindset. So it's important to develop that habit because it's easy to resort back to whatever, right? That's
it is, especially in times of stress. We always return to our default way of being. So it does take practice to pull ourselves into this new way and keep ourselves there. So again, be patient with yourself. Super. Ayub, then Ivan. Ayub. Ayub, I saw you on mute. Are you there? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so for me, it's the part where you acknowledge your emotion and you're aware what you're going through. That way you take them in consideration while facing a situation specifically.
Super. Ivan, then Sri. Ivan? Sri, then Lucero.
I understood that sometimes looking at things differently can help us more, and we are in charge for whatever we feel.
So good. Lucero, then Liza. Lucero.
My takeaway is a mechanic of how to interrupt and prevent the cascade from going and going.
Listen to you slinging those terms around. Outstanding. Ivan, it looks like you're back. Ivan,
sorry, a little technical difficulty there. Yeah, can you hear me?
I saw you all kinds of colors. Yeah, Ivan, then Christopher. Ivan.
Yeah, so my takeaway was emotions are what you make of them, and your reactions to a situation are what controls the outcome, not what the stimulus does to you.
And so good. Christopher, then April.
So the situations are always our choice, how we feel about them, regardless if it's like a instinct or reaction. We still get to decide how we react to the situation before us, and sometimes you just need time, I think.
Yes, give time. So good. April, and bring us home, April, and then there's one to read here from Mary Ellen. April.
I think just the biggest one was that how quickly you can turn around a negative emotion into a neutral and then even into a more positive one, and that you don't have to believe everything you feel.
Yes, and I'm so glad you said that the way you did, because I forgot to say that you have now had the experience of transmuting, all of you that did the exercise, transmuting an upset into neutrality and something else, something higher level. You've all had that experience, and you're going to leave with that here, which is how I like to leave everyone from my work. Thank you, April. And Mary Ellen is that she can change the narrative in her mind, and that she has the capacity to choose how she feels. Outstanding, everyone. It's 6 straight up. Thank you so much for being here on a Friday afternoon. And I hope this was just valuable for you. And I wish you all good things on your path to continuing in your leadership.
Thank you so much, Laura. What an incredibly informative and valuable leadership training. So appreciate you being here. I encourage you all to find Laura Dewey on LinkedIn. She's an incredible coach. I definitely encourage you to look her up. And if you're interested in working with her more, please check her out on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for being here, everyone. Really, really appreciate it. I hope you have a
Thanks,
wonderful
everybody.
weekend. Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you and have a good weekend.
Have a good
Nice to hear
weekend.
everybody's
you.
voice at the end. Thank you for your
Thank
takeaways.
you.
It's awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for all of your great interactions, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.